This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Lifestyle by Design show with your host, Ben Handler, showing everyday people how they can turn buying property into a career.
Matty Sharp, welcome to 2022.
G'day, Benny. Thanks so much for having me on, mate.
Mate, how's the year kicked off for you?
Mate, it's been really busy, actually. Where we obviously are here on the Central Coast, typically there's a lot of people that holiday and whatnot in the area, especially over Christmas. So things don't really stop for us too much up here, especially with inquiry and listings and whatnot, because there are a lot of holiday people. So a little bit different to the Sydney market. But, mate, super excited for a big 2022. We've just added a team member as well. So onboarding him at the moment. So, yeah, looking forward to a big year, mate.
Yeah, nice. And, Central Coast, it's been pumping. You're obviously a resident there. You've been there a long time. Have you just seen this massive shift in the last 24 months?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been crazy. We've obviously benefited from COVID and the pandemic for a few reasons. There's obviously a lot of people now that are opting for some sort of a sea change. Also, there are people now that no longer have to, work in an office 9 to 5 in the city. Now they have flexible working arrangements. So these sorts of regional areas, they start to look attractive, and especially from a price standpoint, and also the amenities and everything that Central Coast has to offer as well. It's been a really, really attractive option. So, it's good for the area. It's good for the region to see some growth. And, it's something we're excited about.
What's median house price there at the moment, roughly?
Mate, I would say in the key areas, so Terrigals, Avoca, Wamberal, you're probably sitting around that sort of 1.3 mark now, maybe a little bit more, 1.5 as well, possibly. But the Central Coast, it's so diverse. Different suburbs are completely different, the demographic and what they offer. So it's hard to sort of put it as, to put all of the suburbs and areas into one basket, if you like.
Yeah, but I guess it's getting exy. What probably was considered, I'm talking about more the blue chip areas, by the way, but what was maybe more considered more affordable, I guess pre-pandemic, it seems like it's really jumped.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think areas like Wamberal, Avoca probably experienced somewhere in the vicinity of 30% growth in probably the last 12 months. So yeah, it's quite a substantial shift.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, mate, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, right, but you were part of BAI, and then I was running a podcast at the time, Quit the 9 to 5. And then I put something out there to be like, hey, if I want to take someone to lunch, I asked someone to write something in. You were on a plane flight in Greece or something, and then you wrote in something to me. It really stood out, and then we caught up for lunch. Is that how it all happened?
Yeah, sort of. So, mate, it's such a good story. So I was monitoring the BAI, the Buyer's Agent Institute, and just following a couple of people's journeys and obviously the success stories there. And this is really early on in the piece. So this would have been early 2019. So I was watching for around 6 months now. I'm a property, I'm a property nut and have been investing in property a long time, but I'm also very aware that there are a lot of spruikers out there, right? So I approach things very cautiously. So I was monitoring this thing thinking, is it real? Is it not? I want to sort of wait to see some more success stories. Anyway, my wife and I were on our honeymoon over in Italy, and I read Paul Glossop's book, Surfer's Guide to Property Investing. I read it in 3 days. I just absolutely loved it. But in that book, he emphasized the importance of a buyer's agent and how much value they can potentially bring. Now, I wasn't overly familiar with the buyer's agent service because it wasn't available here in my own backyard. I knew what it was in Sydney, and I knew there was some people out there like Rick Harvey and some others, and Paul Glossop as well, that were doing good things in Sydney and on a national base. But yeah, it wasn't I guess the service was still so new, right? It's in its infancy. So look, I read that book and I just said to Jackie, look, I'm going to do this buyer's agent thing when we get home. And she's like, oh, okay. Mind you, I've got a really good corporate job that I've been in for probably just over a decade at that stage. So I was pretty pumped to do it. And then I literally, after I'd put down Paul's book, we jumped on a flight and we're flying between Rome and Riga. My wife's family's from Latvia. And literally out of all the podcasts I could listen to, I put on obviously the Smart Property Investment podcast, where I was, obviously just brushing up on some of the latest info in the investment space. And you were on there, and yeah, you obviously mentioned that thing about lunch. And my wife and I just wrote an email proposal while we were on the plane. And then, yeah, just I guess the rest is sort of history, I guess, from there.
Mate, it's unreal. I guess talking about spruikers, when I and just there's a few things I want to touch on just based on what you shared. Talking about spruikers, when I sold out of Cohen Handler and I got into education, like online education, but I was fucking shocked at like just what people do in the online education space in terms of just the bullshit that goes on. And I wasn't aware of it, to be honest with you. Like, I'd enrolled in stuff in online education myself, but I wasn't aware of all the bullshit. And so when the business got up and running, BAI, I started hearing so many horror stories from people just getting ripped by like people who just hadn't executed, just were not authorities, weren't true experts in their space. And so it was a bit daunting, just like understanding that. And it was actually quite, I was lucky that I got awareness around it very early on, because I didn't realize, as I said, it was happening. And so I totally understand, like, when someone like you is looking to embark on something like this, you're like, who the fuck's this guy? Like, or is this legit? Am I going to get fleeced?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, one of my mentors from the early days was Margaret Lomas, right? So she's a big advocate for doing your own research, doing your own education, do everything yourself, which is great for some people, but not for everyone. And part of her message is, avoid these spruikers and all these people that, of course, I'm not referring to you, but these property spruikers at all costs. So, the get rich overnight schemes and the developments and all those sorts of things. So I was very aware and familiar and, like I said, extremely cautious. So thankfully, you're not one of those guys, mate.
Thanks. I ticked that box, which was good. So, yeah, I mean, it's been phenomenal, I guess, just on my end, just seeing your journey transpire. And I guess especially that, you said you'd been in corporate for a decade and you obviously had a very good job. And I remember, obviously, you were, you're risk adverse, which is good. And, as you said earlier, I mean, you are a property nut. You've bought all your own IPs. You've got your own owner rock, which is paid off. Like, you've been there, you've done it. I guess, were you nervous around, given that you had been an employee for so long, were you nervous around that transition around, starting your own business?
Yeah, incredibly. Now, I should note as well, so I was really fortunate. I sort of had a bit of a transition period for nearly sort of 12 months, if you like, where I was on limited hours at the corporate space, and then I was doing the buyer's agent stuff on the side. But yeah, absolutely. Like, the day I put that resignation in, the butterflies were in the stomach and I was nervous, but I just had so much momentum. And when I say momentum, I don't mean huge amounts of cash coming in and all this big client role. It was momentum and energy from myself and just what I believed in. Obviously I had some great mentors in place. I had a really good community around me. And I obviously truly believe in our service and what we provide. And I absolutely just, felt it was the right thing to do. And to be honest, haven't looked back at all, Yeah,
it's been a fast ride for you. And I guess, you are fortunate that you've, I think, been able to start the business in the Central Coast, which has just been such an attractive area. And it's been it's an area I believe that needs buyer's agents so much, because I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the people buying there aren't from there.
Exactly right. Yeah, mate, you're exactly right. And, probably around, 50% of our owner occupiers are coming from Sydney. So they're coming up from Sydney, minimal understanding of the Central Coast. It's actually really surprising as to the leap and the move that people do without understanding anything about the area that they're moving to, which, is admirable in some ways. But yeah, people will come to us, and it's quite common. They'll come to us and say, look, here's our budget. Here's our family. Where do you think we should live? So in a lot of times our search, it's far more than just the transaction and obviously the bricks and mortar. It's more about, okay, well, let's try and understand in some more detail, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do outside of work? Why are you moving to the Central Coast? What's important to you? And then basically line those types of people up with the areas and the suburbs, that they're going to have, the most enjoyable life from up here on the coast, because ultimately that's why people are moving, right?
Yeah. Are you finding that any people that are moving who, let's just say, haven't really thought through the decision in detail? Have you heard any stories that, they're bored and then they're like, fuck, what are we doing here? And then bouncing?
Mate, no, I haven't really heard too many of those. Most people that move to the area never look back, and they just like, we should have moved that, years ago. We absolutely love it. One thing that I do hear though, and one thing that I believe all people are at risk of if you're moving to a new area, whether it be Central Coast or, Southern Highlands or, Brisbane, whatever, if you're moving to an area that you're not familiar with, is, what properties are worth. And especially a lot of clients that we help come from Sydney. So what you get for Sydney for your money in comparison to what you get from here on the Central Coast, it's just completely different, and it's very much out of line. So the education process for us is a big one. So I think a lot of people that are relocating from Sydney to the Central Coast in particular are at major risk of overpaying for properties, major risk, just because they don't understand the market. They don't understand the different suburbs. But in a lot of ways, because they're so conditioned to what's happening in Sydney and what houses sell for within their street, so mid-2s, mid-3s, mid-4s, whatever that might be, I'm talking millions, they come up here to the Central Coast and think, oh, okay, so this is probably worth 3.5 million. It's like, well, no, the median house price in the area is, 2 or 1.5. This is a premium property, so this is probably a little bit more like 2.5. So, that's something that we see, consistently with most of the people that we sort of help. So they are at high risk of overpaying, there's no doubt.
Yeah. And in terms of the real estate agents, your way, like when you got off the ground, did you already have those relationships tied down, or you've been really developing those relationships?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. Look, I'm extremely fortunate that I grew up here on the Central Coast, and I've been connected in the community through surfing and through rugby league, and generally just because I grew up here in the area. So a big chunk of my relationships I already were existing. So I knew some of these key agents prior to even, starting the business. So that's absolutely helped me because, the agents have, they've already got some trust there, and they already understand that, they have a good relationship with me, and they obviously know that I have good values and could potentially offer a good service. So that really helped. But there were some others, like some of the biggest agents in the country, Kathy Baker and Matt Steinway, for example, that I didn't know, but have built really, really good relationships with those guys. And look, I've been so fortunate to have that level of agent right here in my own backyard, because I can see firsthand, what it takes to be, right at the top of your game. And I think that's really helped me, in our journey, if you like. And, they've shared some of the wisdom, which has been invaluable for obviously our business and how I sort of look at certain things. So, mate, I just feel incredibly grateful to have the business here, to be honest, and have those close relationships as well.
Yeah, I guess in dealing with those style of, all-star agents, the ones you do, the Matt, Kathy Bakers, like they're right up there. And so I guess just to be able to learn from them and see how they deal and, just work buyers, work vendors, and just how they operate would just be, it's unreal.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely different styles, but mate, they get great results for their clients respectively,
And I guess when you were an investor, obviously just doing your own stuff, it's a big difference, hey, like when you think you know what you're doing, when you've bought a few or however many, you buy in the portfolio, and then you become a buyer's agent and you actually start to transact at a much higher level, and then obviously get exposed to a lot more stuff just in terms of the entire journey, the property journey. It's a different ballgame, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely different ballgame. Now, I got a bit of a disclosure here. There's definitely some properties that I've bought prior to becoming a professional buyer's agent for myself, mind you, that would not meet our internal checks right now, which is all learning. But look, thankfully for me, they've still done okay or done quite well. But yeah, they wouldn't meet our checks, but it's just being invested in it every single day. We see far more stock than everyone else. And we're just on top of things far more than the average punter. But in saying that, I love people doing their own research. if they're keen on property, like go out there, read the books, do the research, do the education yourself for sure. That's how I built my knowledge, and that's how I continue to build my knowledge today.
Yeah. And I guess, obviously, I'm not familiar with your market center where you operate primarily on the coast, but I guess I'm assuming it's tightly held. Obviously, there's not a huge amount of supply. And so I guess the nature of the strength of the agent relationships would be really critical. So I guess having you there and knowing these agents, I'm assuming it's going to put you much further ahead than the standard buyer, right?
Yeah, it does. And I think any buyer's agent that's well established should have those really strong relationships. And I think it just makes things much more smoother. We basically get the first option to look or to buy the property, which is obviously incredibly beneficial, especially in a really fast-paced moving market. The other thing is the information that we're able to get from the agent too. If we have really strong, trusted relationships, the agent, will typically give us more information than what the average buyer will get, which allows us to sort of have a bit of a rail run, if you like, towards buying the property. That's if it's suitable, of course. But mate, those agent relationships are absolutely critical. There's no doubt about it for anyone.
Yeah, I guess it's hard when you're just the normal buyer. You don't quite, I guess, understand the importance of an agent relationship.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, 100%. Could not agree more. Especially just from our experience with buyers coming up from Sydney, only spending limited time here on the Central Coast to look at the properties, maybe only getting the agent for 2 minutes, 5 minutes at the open, and then driving back to Sydney going, how do we buy this thing? Just from gathering that small amount of information from the agent, maybe they can't get onto them because it has been a fast-paced moving market. But yeah, and I think it's just all trust, mate. It's relationships. It's not like it's a one-way street. Like the agents will heavily rely on us as well, and trust us as well, to navigate and try and align, our clients together respectfully, both obviously the purchaser and the vendor, to see whether or not there's an outcome. Of course, the property needs to be a good fit. And if it is, we all just work together to try and get the best outcome for everyone. That's the name of the game. And like I said, thankfully, I've got some really good agents here that, sales agents that I chat with and have really, really strong relationships with that have helped me along the way. And I've obviously learned a lot from those guys along the way too. So I'm glad that they have, respect and trust in us and the service that we provide as well.
Yeah, nice. And are you focusing more on owner-occ or investment or a bit of both?
Mate, it's probably 50-50. We have a lot of people naturally that are always looking to relocate to the Central Coast. So we buy a lot of properties here for owner-occupiers. But look, I'm an investor at heart. I've always wanted to do investment stuff. So we do a lot of investment purchases as well. Occasionally, people are just looking for an investment here just on the Central Coast. But also there are lots of people that we help buy interstate as well. But we're probably more of a boutique interstate investor agency, if you like, as you probably know. So, we have a team of 4. So, we only have like a limited amount of people that we help at any one time. And we just sort of, I don't know, we feel like we're in a bit of a sweet spot in terms of volume and who we like to help. So that's the way I like it. And that's probably how we'll stay going forward,
Yeah, nice. And how are you feeling about, I guess, this year, just in terms of the 12 months ahead? I guess obviously last year was pretty crazy. Not the busiest that I've seen it in my time. Not that I've been around that long, but probably since 2009. How are you feeling about this year?
Yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting year. I don't think that the market can move, as quickly as it was last year and head up in that upward trajectory as quickly as it did last year. But mate, I still see some serious growth in the market. But what I would be predicting would be a lot of people are going to be releasing some of that equity that they gained over the last 12 to 24 months and looking to invest. So I'm expecting the investor markets to be really, really strong. So a lot of investors out there looking to take advantage of how much their properties have gone up in value. I know, I've done that personally. I know other buyers agents that have done that personally in the last sort of 3 to 6 months. And a lot of our clients also have done it in the last 12 to 18 months that we've helped buy. They've bought 2 and 3 investment properties just because of, because of the upward, the capital growth that they've had in their properties.
Yeah. And I mean, if there is a downturn and whatever that looks like, I guess from my experience, being a buyer's agent, when the market's not, when it's softer, when it's more of a, you could call it a buyer's market, it presents, better opportunities for the client. So I think even if the market turns, it's a very, I think it's, unless rates really skyrocket, like they did maybe in the 80s, which clearly they're not going to do that now, but it's a very resilient, I think, business in the sense of, it works well in a seller's market, it works well in a buyer's market. So, who knows? But I guess, I think, good news is if it softens, it's going to be a lot easier to buy for you guys.
Yeah, agreed. And just look, the shoe will be on the other foot. Agents will be calling us, and we'll probably have a little bit more leverage than what we've had in the last sort of 12 to 24 months, definitely.
Yeah, and next month, obviously, federal elections coming up. Like, have you noticed anything? I know the year's just really starting now and doesn't really start to fire after Australia Day, but are you foreseeing like some good buying opportunity up until the election? Do you think that? I guess the question is, do you feel like there's going to be buyers who are kind of just waiting to see policy and just waiting to see what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, obviously in the past, it's impacted the property market, but given the last 12 to 24 months, I don't know what impacts the property market at the moment. It seems like nothing really. But look, I think, as you know, I think right now is a great time to be buying. Everyone's just fresh off a Christmas break. Maybe they're not thinking about property. I think that this little window typically is a good time to buy right up to sort of Australia Day. And now the election's obviously coming in sort of towards February. I think that little window might be open for a little bit longer. But look, I'm a big believer that if you have your cash buffer in place, you've got good money systems yourself, and you want to buy a property, I'm talking investment, and you've got a long-term plan to build some wealth, property should really fit into your investment strategy or portfolio, regardless of the current market conditions. Obviously, the owner-occupier stuff's a little bit different because there are certain things that will dictate when you're able to buy and when you're selling and whatnot. But look, I've always just got a really long-term view. And look, things might go up a little bit, things might go down a little bit. But look, ultimately, is the property going to be worth more in the next 10, 15, 20 years than what it is the day you buy it or today? Yeah, I'd say absolutely yes. The fundamentals indicate that it absolutely will be.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you've got a long-term view and that's the strategy, then you're right. Like, I mean, if you look at the the past history, the data on properties, it's not going down, it's going up
exactly
in good areas. So I guess you've just you said you had a team of 4, so you just had a new member start this year, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep. So we've just added he's a fully licensed buyer's agent. He's on the ground here with me, just helping clients face to face, also obviously inspect properties for clients as well. But our model is probably a little bit different to some others. We basically just work on everything together. So he and I are a team. We meet the clients together. We search for the properties together. We do everything we can to execute for that particular client. And with him coming on board, the focus wasn't to double our client base or anything like that. It was more just, okay, let's try and get across more properties than what we did in the last 12 months. And let's just try and offer a better experience for our clients as well with, 2 sets of eyes, 2 sets of ears, 2 sets of people on the ground to see double the amount of stuff.
Yeah, mate, unreal. And where can people find you? What's your website?
So our website's sharpproperty.com.au. And we're also on all the socials as well. So, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll find us on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. Well, listen, congrats this year. I mean, you've had a fucking phenomenal few years. I've been watching you obviously from the sideline closely. And I know it's not easy. Like a lot of people who are looking to, cut that cord with the corporate job, it's not easy. And I think it takes a lot of courage to do it. And I think you really strategically executed it. I think you're in a very good position to de-risk yourself and then just get out. So well done on that, mate. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Benny, mate. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the help and support as well.
No, you're welcome. So anyone who's, I guess, interested in, turning buying property into a career this year, just visit buyersagentinstitute.com.au. Also, if you are looking for a scholarship program, every episode we offer 3 scholarships out. So you can visit smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. You click podcast at the top, and then when you scroll down to the bottom to Lifestyle by Design, you can select scholarship, put your name in the first 3. We will put forward a a really awesome package for you. Well, Sharpie, thanks for being on here, mate, and wishing you all the best this year.
Thanks so much, mate. Thanks for having me.
See ya.